أهلا ومرحبا بكم في برنامج داخل واشنطن. أنا مضيفكم روبرت ساتلوف. حلقة اليوم مختلفة عن حلقات داخل واشنطن 900 السابقة، ذلك لأن موضوع حلقة اليوم هو هذا البرنامج وقناة الحرة ومسير البث الدولي المدعوم من الحكومة الأمريكية. شهدت الأيام الأخيرة حدثين هامين. أولاً، صوت الكونغرس على تمديد الميزانية الفيدرالية حتى أيلول سبتمبر، وشمل ذلك الإنفاق على جميع البرامج الرئيسية مثل الدفاع والضمان الاجتماعي، بالإضافة إلى العديد من البرامج الأصغر بما في ذلك البث الدولي. ولكن بعد يوم واحد من هذا التصويت قررت إدارة ترامب إلغاء تمويل البث الدولي وإيقاف تمويل إذاعة صوت أمريكا وراديو أوروبا الحرة وهذه القناة قناة الحرة. وفي خدم هذا الخلاف يبرز سؤالان: من يتحكم بالإنفاق في نظامنا الدستوري، الكونغرس أم الرئاسة؟ وفي الوقت الذي ينفق فيه أعداء أمريكا مئات ملايين من الدولارات على دعاية، هل هذا هو الوقت المناسب لحكومتنا كي تستسلم في معركة الأفكار؟ لمناقشة دور البث الدولي في معركة الأفكار يسرني أن أرحب برئيس مجلس إدارة شبكة الشرق الأوسط للإرسال السفير السابق رايان كروكر والرئيس التنفيذي للشبكة جيفري غدمن. Welcome back to Dakhel, Washington. It's fateful days for this show, this network, and America's international broadcasting. To explain what I mean, I'm delighted to welcome the chairman of Middle East Broadcasting, distinguished former American ambassador Rayan Crocker, and the president and chief executive officer of Middle East Broadcasting, Jeffrey Gedman. Delighted to have both of you, Ryan, Jeff, on our show. So first, let's begin. Why? Why does the United States government even have its own global presence on broadcasting, a presence that goes all the way back to World War II? Ryan?
The reason for having U.S. government broadcasting is effectively the same in now as it was in the dark days of World War II. That first broadcast from New York City of Voice of America said in part, we will tell you the truth. Some days the news about the war will be good for us, some days bad, but we will tell you the truth. And that has been the hallmark for U.S. government-funded broadcasting ever since. It certainly is the genesis of Middle East broadcasting networks. Alhurra was formed in 2004 to counter disinformation on Arabic language media about the U.S. and what the U.S. was doing. So we are not a propaganda arm. We exist to tell the truth in Arabic to an Arab audience about what is actually going on in their own region and in the United States. It's as simple as that and as important as that.
So Jeff, you're the president of Middle East Broadcasting. This network was a product of September 11th, the post September 11th world. How did it happen? What's the unique objective of this network?
Rob, thank you. I think it's fair to say that the objective has evolved over time and adapted. As Ryan said, it is the only U.S.-funded Arabic language network. It's, of course, television and digital, 22 countries across the Arab, Middle East, and North Africa. And we do want to shed light, tell the American story, have our listeners, our viewers, our readers have a little bit of better light on what happens in the United States and in Washington politics. We're also interested in democratization and development, and we're interested in what countries like Iran and China and Russia do across the region. So I think it's evolved. I think it's incredibly relevant today, and we have great talent working for us, as you know, Rob.
So let's just pursue this for a second. I mean, there are a lot of media in the Middle East. Middle East is not short of television stations, newspapers, radios. What separates out what we do?
So it's hard and simple at the same time. That is to say, we are journalistically independent. That guards our journalistic integrity and lends itself to credibility with audiences. But we're the only station or network that aligns with the broad foreign policy goals of the United States of America.
Fascinating.
Let me take another angle on that. So, as I was noting earlier, in many respects, Middle East Broadcasting Networks through Alhurra got its start in Iraq. And I was in Iraq as ambassador for 2 years, 2007 to 2009. And Iraq had a very free media environment then. And one of the questions I asked as the U.S. ambassador was, well, somebody tell me what Alhurra brings that that all this free media that is rampant everywhere does not. And it mirrored Jeff's answer about the coverage of the U.S., that free does not mean responsible. It does not mean honest. It doesn't mean accurate. It doesn't mean objective. And Alhurra stood for all of those things, that we would tell the truth, we would report the news accurately. And they convinced me. I went down to the studios, did an interview myself, got some hard questions as the American ambassador. And what I saw there is what I still see today, that this is an organization that exists to maintain and model the highest principles of journalism for a region that doesn't often have those.
So critics will say there's a built-in tension. Government-funded media, by its definition, has an inherent tension between being free media, speaking truth to power, and knowing who the checks are written by, namely originally the government that is funding it. What is your answer to that critique, Jeff?
So Rob, there's always a tension between independent media and the funder. And by the way, in private funding too. Do you recall in 2016 when the head of CBS News said, Donald Trump may not be good for the country, but he's very good for our shareholders. All the independent Arab media across the region have funders, governments who back them. In our case, it's a needle to thread, but up until now, we have been privileged to have a firewall. We're funded by the US government, but we're protected from political interference. That's magic when it works. Up until now, it's worked.
I can only add, this is, for me, show 928. And I have never once, in almost 21 years, ever received a request, an instruction, a critique, a demand from anyone about what is said or what isn't said on this show. And that's a power.
Rob, let me add that I have been twice president CEO of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and now 11 months in this role at MBN, Middle East Broadcasting Network's Alhurra. Not once have I ever been told by the White House, State Department, or member of Congress what to do or what not to do. Not once.
And as an occasional viewer of your show, Rob, let me just say that you have had every conceivable viewpoint, from the very far right to the extreme left, represented. And it is pretty apparent that did not come from MBN leadership.
I'll take that as a compliment. So let me ask both of you. This is, as you say, there's a mission to the network, but it's in some sense also a business. How do you measure success when your mission is the free journalism that you've spoken about?
So, Ryan, if I may, I'll go first. So we have instruments, however imperfect, to measure, and we do reach in a good week 30 million or more across the region. And then, of course, qualitatively, as our audience is primarily, if I may say, decision makers and influentials and people in government and media and in that sort of uh, 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 impactful space, we have lots and lots and lots of interaction, conversation, testimonial. So quantitative and qualitative. But Ryan may want to add something to that.
I think that's quite right. I was out in the region just 2 weeks ago, including in Iraq, in Baghdad, and was participating in an international conference that the Iraqis had organized. And MBN was right there on the scene with its cameras, its interviewers, and everybody who was anybody at that conference was being interviewed by MBN. That was the outlet of choice to appear on. And I think that is a very telling indication of the, again, the presence and the professionalism of this network.
Rob, there's one more qualitative criterion. As we're facing issues right now with our funder, we are hearing from Lebanese Hezbollah and Iranian-backed militia in Iraq celebrating the potential demise of Alhurra. That's a market test too, I suspect.
If this network goes off the air, what will be missed? What do you think will be missed most? Jeff?
I think people appreciate the independence, as Ryan said, the striving for truth. If I may say openly, we are a rare, if not the only Arabic language platform that offers an opportunity for Israeli politicians, officials, civil society to speak. I think in much of our audience, that's both controversial and sought after, very popular with great curiosity. I think those are some of the things that'll be missed immediately.
And Ryan, from your experience, what do you think will be missed if this network is not broadcasting?
An honest and objective voice in a region that is filled with lies, distortions, half truths, and total fabrications. And as Jeff noted, when word of the termination of the grant became public, social media in the region just exploded. And tweets, for example, with one stroke of his pen, Trump has eliminated the voice of the lackeys, those who attack Iran, those who attack the popular resistance, those who attack pro-Iranian militias in Iraq. Well, that is high praise indeed for an objective portrayal of a very complex region. So anytime our America's enemies are cheering, that is not something we should be happy about here at home. And they are cheering the reports of the defunding of Alhurra.
When we come back after the break, we're going to get into more details of that controversial decision and see what is behind it and the potential constitutional clash even between a congressional power to authorize and appropriate funds and a presidential claim to not pay what Congress has authorized. We're going to get into all this with Jeff Gedman and Ryan Crocker in just a moment. My guests this week include Jeff Gedman. Dr. Jeffrey Gedman is President and Chief Executive Officer of Middle East Broadcasting Networks, MBN, the nonprofit corporation that is the parent company of Alhurra. A native of Washington, D.C., Jeff has been at the forefront of the international campaign to advance freedom throughout his adult life, fighting the intellectual battle of ideas in print and over the airwaves. He served 4 years as president and chief executive of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, a U.S. government-funded media organization broadcasting throughout the challenging media zone of Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and Central Asia. He was also co-founder and editor-in-chief of an important intellectual journal called American Purpose, and president of the influential London-based think tank, the Legatum Institute, and president and chief executive of the Aspen Institute in Berlin, Germany. And with us is Ambassador Ryan Crocker. He is the chairman of the Middle East Broadcasting Board of Directors. He is one of America's most decorated diplomats. In his 37-year career, this native of Spokane, Washington, served as American ambassador in 6 different countries. 6. Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Syria, Kuwait, and Lebanon, often representing our country in the heat of conflict and at moments of extreme danger. In recognition of his superlative service, Ryan Crocker was awarded the Medal of Freedom in 2009, our nation's highest civilian honor. He retired from the Foreign Service as a career ambassador, the highest rank within the U.S. State Department. He then spent 6 years as dean of Texas A&M University's Bush School of Government and Public Service. Just to give you a taste of who Ryan Crocker is, President George W. Bush called him, quote, America's Lawrence of Arabia. First, I want to ask you about you. So, Ryan, let me begin with you. You're one of America's most distinguished and experienced diplomats that we've ever had in the Middle East. Why did you agree to sort of come out of retirement, as it were, to become chairman of the board of directors of Middle East Broadcasting?
As I said earlier, Rob, I had direct experience in the course of my career with Middle East Broadcasting Networks and Alhurra in particular. And I saw up close and personal the extraordinary work they were doing in Iraq when I was ambassador there to, again, tell America's story, to tell it honestly and accurately, and to report the news of the region also honestly and accurately, including perspectives that no other Arabic language media provided. As Jeff had noted, Alhurra is the only Arabic language channel that routinely interviews Israelis. And it is a region that, for all of its loathing of Israel at some levels, has an intense hunger for, again, accurate news about what Israelis think. Why do they think it? And we provide that in addition to other accurate reporting. So I was a skeptic when I got to Baghdad. I left a strong supporter of the Alhurra networks. And when I had the opportunity to join the MBN board now some years ago, I snapped at it. And it was a privilege and an honor to become chairman of that board last summer.
All right. Jeff, let me ask you. You've spent much of your career in the battle of ideas, fighting against authoritarianism, especially against regimes in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet bloc. Why take on the challenge of the Middle East in becoming president and chief executive of Middle East Broadcasting?
Rob, there are 3 short answers to that. The first, I have developed for years affection, admiration through convening conferences and travel in Iraq and Jordan and Egypt and Kuwait and so forth. And so deep affection and admiration for the region. Second reason is simply that I believe in the men and women of this company. I've always admired MBN Alhurra. deepest talent, tremendous dedication and knowledge and expertise. And finally, an opportunity arose because Ryan Crocker called me last spring and asked me if I would take this on. And when Ambassador Crocker calls, you answer. And when he asks, you say yes.
That's a lot of power, Ryan. Congratulations.
I wish it were true.
All right. Look, we're doing this show because of the threat to the life of the network. Congress recently passed a continuing resolution that authorized spending for the federal budget at least through September. That included within it funding for Middle East broadcasting, that is, for this network, Alhurra. The very next day, the Trump administration announced that it was terminating the grant, that it was not going to actually transfer the money that Congress authorized to maintain the functioning of the network. In other words, they decided they want to shut the network down. Say something about this clash of constitutional powers that we're seeing play out with our network, Alhurra, Middle East Broadcasting, as the ping pong between Congress and the executive.
Well, it's exactly that, Rob. It is a unique moment in American history that we should all be paying attention to. It involves the question of executive authority, of legislative prerogatives, and of a judicial mandate. And all three are in play, just as you described. For MBN, we're very hopeful that our legislative branch, our Congress, which appropriates the funds, will make its voice heard on this. Their equities are at stake too, and it is a constitutional question. We also have the judiciary, and we are looking very hard and closely at bringing a legal challenge to this effort by the executive branch to take Alhurra off the air. Because again, we see this as not only an issue for Alhurra and the networks, but also a fundamental issue in American law and its execution.
So I want to thank you. Thank you, President and Chief Executive Jeff Gedman. Thank you, Chairman Ambassador Ryan Crocker. And most of all, thank all of you, our viewers across the Middle East, who have been loyal supporters and watchers of this show and of everything that Alhurra has done. We're not gone. We'll be back, but thank you. بهذا ننهي حلقة داخل واشنطن. لا أعلم إن كان هذا ينهي أيضا أكثر من 20 عاما من برنامج داخل واشنطن. أتمنى أن أراكم مجددا لنواصل جهودنا في شرح السياسة الأمريكية وطريقة عملنا السياسية لمشاهدينا العرب. ولكن إذا كانت هذه هي الحلقة الأخيرة، فأعود أن أشكر منتج البرنامج المتميز آدم نيكسون، وأعود أن أشكركم جميعا بشكل خاص على دعمكم المخلص لسنوات عديدة. إن كانت لديكم أي تعليقات حول هذه الحلقة، أرجو التواصل معي عبر تويتر على هاشتاج Inside Washington أو مباشرة @Rob Satloff. ربما أراكم في الأسبوع المقبل وربما لا، ولكن في الوقت الحالي شكرا لكم وإلى اللقاء.